Elizabeth Gilbert wrote this book called Big Magic, Creative Living Through Fear. She kind of has this analogy in there about hitting something over the net, like tennis. I try and live by that. I think it's really useful.
What is your process that you've developed over this time? How often do you write, first of all? Is there a pattern to your writing process? And what do you figure out first? How big of an outline do you do and such?
Yeah. I kind of would try and get up in the morning and get started straight away, like really early. But I've found that my brain doesn't really kick in till mid-morning, 10, 11 or so onwards. Um, and then I seem to hit my sweet spot at like 3 o'clock. I'm not sure about you, when you're like agonized, that you look at the clock and you have to go, whether it's a meeting or a school pickup or a sport. And it's like, oh my God, how do I have to tear myself away from this? And it's a good problem to have because you know that you're getting somewhere. But for me, that seems to happen by the mid-afternoon. So I've worked out my patterns and try to capitalize now on that, mid-morning to mid-afternoon. I'll write through like lunch effectively. Like I'll mix it up between sitting down, standing up, and just try and get several hours done. And then the next day, or even sometimes late that night, if I feel like picking up again, I'll go back through what I've done. And as you know, it's always a rewriting and chopping and changing process. Like,
The worst is when you're so happy with what you wrote, and the next day you pick it up and you're like, "What is this junk that I put on a page?"
oh yeah, that's very familiar. Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. When you're like, I'm flowing, I'm on fire, this is amazing. And then it just needs a bit of time, doesn't it? And it settles and you go back.
The best is the opposite. Sometimes you'll pick something up and you're like, "Oh wow, this is not bad actually." Okay. And you have those moments as well, but you got to have both. I think you got to have both sides of that coin.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. It's all about balance. And one of the worst things is being blocked, and I've had that before. I've had that earlier this year for a period and last year too. I found when that's happened to me, it's probably happened because I've had several projects on at once. So whether that's needing to turn drafts back to producers or, my own projects that I've set my own, self-imposed deadline for. And then I think I can, have in the past anyway, get into a little bit of a, like a mode of feeling overwhelmed and like, oh, there's too many things to focus on, too much to turn back in. And I've, frozen effectively for a few days or, sometimes a little bit longer. But my way that I kind of get out of that is just triaging and trying to go back to, okay, well, this is due by a certain point, or people, I've already received notes from, manager or producer for something. So I really found it useful. Elizabeth Gilbert wrote this book called Big Magic, Creative Living Through Fear. I'm not sure if you've read it
I
or,
haven't read that one. Is she the one that did
yeah,
Love?
she is.
Oh,
Yeah.
different book by her. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so it's really wonderful. So it's so it's nonfiction. So it's just a guidebook, I guess, for pushing through challenges as a person who works in some kind of creative medium or even just in life. And yeah, she kind of has this analogy in there about hitting something over the net, like tennis. So I'm sure, yeah, it's probably well used by people. Just the idea of once you hit something over the net, just go straight onto something else so that you're not sitting around waiting. And you're always doing. And so I try and live by that. I think it's really useful because I know sometimes we like hit something over the net and we're crossing our fingers, hoping it lands or something exciting happens with it. But I think for me, sometimes that's when I can be my most productive because I'm nervous, I'm excited, I'm waiting, and I don't want to be overthinking things. So I'll just go straight into the next project. Yeah, so my process kind of looks much the same week to week. I do play basketball, not very well, but I play competitive sport and I go to the gym a fair bit. So for me, I found in recent years, especially exercise for me is important because as writers, like we sit around a lot. think you'd
Mhm.
be pretty sedentary. So I definitely find that endorphins get me thinking and help me think. I noticed that in your episode with Shane Black, it was really awesome hearing about, he talked about, and yourself as well, taking a walk or a drive. Um, I think that in order to move through some challenges or being blocked or just ruminate on some things that might not be working, getting away from the computer is really important. Um, and whether that's walking, running, or driving with no radio on, like I know you'd mentioned, I really loved hearing about how you had that 3-hour journey and you went from your work to home, but didn't even recall like the
Yeah,
time.
just lost in thought, and it's like a 5-minute trip. It's 3 hours in real time, but because my stories are percolating and what's going on, it just it yeah.